She walked through the wrong door and into a world where one mistake could cost her everything. Tonight, I'm sharing a story about power, survival, and the dangerous line between desperation and destiny. A homeless woman, a mansion built on secrets, and a man whose control could either save her or destroy her completely. Stay with me until the end to see how this unfolds. And drop a comment with your city below. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. Hit that like button and let's begin. The rain had turned Manhattan into a blur of gray and noise. Water streamed down gutters, pooled in cracked sidewalks, and turned the city into something cold and indifferent. Lena Carter stood beneath a rusted fire escape, her jacket soaked through, her backpack heavy with everything she owned. 28 years old, a physical therapist with a master's degree and nowhere to sleep. 3 months ago, she'd had an apartment in Brooklyn, a steady job at a rehab clinic, and a future that felt solid. Then the clinic closed without warning. Budget cuts, they said. Her savings evaporated, paying rent she could no longer afford. Her roommate moved out. The eviction notice came faster than she could find new work. Now she had nothing, just a phone with 8% battery, a list of clinics that weren't hiring, and the kind of exhaustion that made every step feel like surrender. She checked her phone one more time. The address glowed faintly on the cracked screen. 1247 East 68th Street, Volkov Health Services. Walk-ins accepted. It wasn't on any official registry. No website, no reviews. Just a tip from another therapist at a coffee shop. Someone who'd heard they were desperate for staff. Desperate. That word had become Lena's entire vocabulary. She pushed off the wall and started walking. The address led her to a quiet street lined with brownstones and luxury buildings, places where people like her didn't belong anymore. She counted the numbers until she found it. 1,247. But something was wrong. The building wasn't a clinic. It was a pristine 5-story townhouse with black iron gates and windows that reflected nothing. No sign, no lights indicating a business, just wealth and silence. Lena hesitated. Maybe she'd copied the address wrong. Maybe the tip had been bad from the start. She turned to leave. Then she saw it. A side entrance, unmarked, the door slightly ajar. Through the gap she could hear voices, low, professional, the kind of tones you'd hear in a medical office. Maybe it's a private practice, she thought. Maybe they don't advertise. Desperation has a way of making bad decisions feel reasonable. Lena pushed the door open and stepped inside. The hallway was nothing like a clinic. It was all dark wood paneling, marble floors, and the kind of silence that felt intentional. Expensive. Controlled. The air smelled faintly of cedar and something else. Something Lena couldn't name but made her skin prickle. She walked slowly, her wet sneakers squeaking against the floor. Ahead, she could hear muffled voices behind a closed door. She moved toward it, her heart pounding. This is wrong. Turn around. Leave. But she didn't, because leaving meant going back to nothing. She reached the door and knocked. Once, twice. The voices stopped. Footsteps approached from the other side, calm, measured, unhurried. The door opened, and Lena forgot how to breathe. The man standing in front of her wasn't what she expected. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with sharp features that looked like they'd been carved with intent. Dark hair swept back, gray eyes that didn't blink, and a presence that took up more space than his body should have allowed. He wore a black suit that fit perfectly. No tie. The top button undone in a way that suggested control, not casualness. He didn't ask who she was. He just looked at her. For 3 long seconds, Lena felt like she was being cataloged, assessed, measured against some invisible standard she didn't understand. Then he spoke. You're lost. His voice was low, calm, not a question, a statement. Lena's mouth opened, but the words tangled in her throat. I'm looking for Volkov Health Services. I was told there's no clinic here. But someone gave me this address. They were mistaken. He started to close the door. Panic flared in Lena's chest. Wait, please. I'm a physical therapist. I need work. If there's any chance. The man stopped. His eyes shifted back to her, and this time the assessment was different, slower, more deliberate. A physical therapist, he repeated. Yes. I have my credentials. I can send them right now. I've worked with stroke patients, post-surgical recovery, neurological rehabilitation. Where did you work? Brighton Rehab in Brooklyn. Before that, Mount Sinai. And now? Lena hesitated. The clinic closed. How long have you been unemployed? 3 months? Living situation? The question hit like a slap. Lena's jaw tightened. That's not relevant to my qualifications. The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. Come inside. Lena blinked. What? You want work. Come inside. Every instinct screamed at her to run. This wasn't normal. This wasn't safe. But desperation doesn't listen to instinct. She stepped through the door. The room beyond was an office, but not like any Lena had seen. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk made of black walnut, leather chairs that looked older than she was, and windows that overlooked a private garden lit by soft golden lights. Another man sat in one of the chairs. Older, mid-50s. Expensive suit, graying hair, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He stood when Lena entered. Adrian, the older man said, his tone smooth. Who's this? The man who'd opened the door, Adrian, didn't answer immediately. He moved to the desk, leaning against it with his arms crossed. A physical therapist, he said finally. Unemployed, looking for work. The older man's smile widened. How fortunate. Lena's stomach twisted. Something about the way he looked at her felt wrong, like she was a piece on a board he was already planning to move. I'm Victor Cade, the man said, extending a hand. Lena shook it. His grip was firm, too firm. Lena Carter. Well, Miss Carter, Victor said, glancing at Adrian, you've walked into an interesting moment. Adrian here has been searching for someone with your exact skill set. Lena looked between them. For what? Adrian's gaze stayed fixed on her. My mother had a stroke 6 months ago. She's recovering, but progress has been slow. The therapists I've hired haven't been effective. So you're looking for in-home care? Among other things? Victor chuckled. Adrian's mother is particular. She doesn't respond well to strangers. The last 3 therapists quit within a week. Lena frowned. Why? Because, Adrian said, his voice flat, she doesn't want help. She wants control. And when she realizes she doesn't have it, she becomes difficult. Difficult how? Hostile, uncooperative, verbally abusive. Lena crossed her arms. And you think I'll be different? I think, Adrian said slowly, you're desperate enough not to quit. The words were cold, clinical, true. And Lena hated that he was right. What's the job? She asked. Live-in care, full-time. You'll work with my mother 6 days a week, meals and accommodations provided. Salary is $75,000 annually. Lena's breath caught. That was more than she'd made at the clinic, more than she'd made anywhere. And the catch. Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly. You don't leave the property without permission. You don't discuss what happens inside this house with anyone, and you follow my instructions without question. Victor laughed softly. Adrian, you make it sound like a prison. It's not, Adrian said, still looking at Lena. It's a contract. Accept it, and you have stability. Refuse, and you walk away. Lena's mind raced. This wasn't normal. Nothing about this was normal. But $75,000. A roof over her head. Food. Stability. Why me? She asked. You don't know anything about me. I know enough, Adrian said. You're qualified. You need work. And you're standing here instead of walking away, which tells me you're either brave or foolish. Either works. Lena swallowed hard. I need to think about it. You have 60 seconds. That's not, 55 seconds. Victor leaned back in his chair, watching with amusement. Lena's heart pounded. This was insane. She should leave, find another clinic, sleep in a shelter if she had to. But shelters were full, clinics weren't hiring, and winter was coming. 30 seconds. I want it in writing, Lena said suddenly. The salary, the terms, everything. Adrian reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. He slid it across the desk. Lena opened it. The contract was already prepared, pre-printed, as if he'd known she'd say yes. She scanned the pages. The terms were exactly as he'd said, but there was one clause that made her pause. Termination of employment may occur at the employer's discretion for any breach of confidentiality or failure to comply with household protocols. What are household protocols? She asked. Rules, Adrian said simply. You'll learn them as you go. That's not specific enough. It doesn't need to be. Lena looked up at him. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, something that felt like a warning and a promise at the same time. She should walk away. She knew she should, but desperation has a gravity all its own. Where do I sign? She asked. Victor left 20 minutes later, but not before giving Lena a look that made her skin crawl. Welcome to the family, Miss Carter, he'd said, his smile too wide. Now it was just her and Adrian. He gestured toward the hallway. I'll show you to your room. Lena followed him through the house, her wet shoes still squeaking against the marble. The place was enormous, hallways that seemed to stretch forever, rooms with closed doors, staircases that led to floors she couldn't see. Everything was pristine, cold, beautiful in a way that felt untouchable. Adrian stopped in front of a door on the 3rd floor. He pushed it open. The room beyond was larger than Lena's old apartment, a 4-poster bed, a private bathroom, a sitting area with a view of the garden. This is yours, Adrian said. You'll find clothes in the closet. Your size was estimated based on observation. If anything doesn't fit, let the housekeeper know. Lena stepped inside slowly, her mind still reeling. You had this ready. I've been searching for someone for 3 weeks. Preparation isn't the same as presumption. She turned to face him. You said your mother is difficult. How bad is it really? Adrian's expression didn't change. She threw a water glass at the last therapist, told the one before that she hoped he'd die in a car accident. The first one she simply refused to speak to for 2 weeks straight. Lena's stomach tightened. And you think I can handle that? I think, Adrian said, stepping closer. You understand what it's like to lose control. That might make you different. His eyes held hers for a moment, gray and unreadable, but not cold. Not quite. Then he turned toward the door. Dinner is at 7. Don't be late. He left without another word. Lena stood alone in the room, her heart still racing. She walked to the window and looked out at the garden below. It was beautiful, peaceful, but something about it felt wrong, like the calm before a storm. Dinner was served in a dining room that could have seated 20 people. Only 3 sat at the table, Adrian at the head, Lena to his right, and at the far end, in a wheelchair, was Elena Volkov. She was smaller than Lena expected, thin, with sharp features softened by age and illness. Her hair was silver, pulled back in a neat bun. Her hands rested in her lap, one curled slightly inward, the lingering effect of the stroke. But her eyes were fire. She looked at Lena with the kind of gaze that stripped away pretense. No warmth, no welcome, just assessment. So, Elena said, her voice raspy but strong. Another one. Mother, Adrian said calmly. This is Lena Carter. She'll be working with you starting tomorrow. Elena's lip curled. I didn't ask for another therapist. You didn't ask for the last 3 either, and I got rid of them. You did. Elena's gaze shifted back to Lena. How long do you think you'll last? Lena met her eyes. As long as it takes. Elena laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Confident. I like that. It'll make breaking you more interesting. Mother. What? You brought her here. Let me have my fun. Adrian's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. A housekeeper brought out the first course. Soup, delicate and perfectly plated. Lena picked up her spoon, but her appetite was gone. Elena watched her the entire time. You're homeless, Elena said suddenly. Lena's hand froze. Mother, don't mother me, Adrian. I can see it. The way she looks at the room, the way she holds herself. She's got nowhere else to go. Lena set down her spoon carefully. You're right. I don't. Elena tilted her head. And you took this job anyway, knowing nothing about us. Knowing my son is... She paused, smiling faintly. Not a man who tolerates mistakes. I needed work, Lena said evenly.
You need help.
It's not complicated. Everything here is complicated, Adrian's voice cut through the tension. That's enough. Elena's smile widened. See what I mean? The rest of the meal passed in near silence. Lena ate mechanically, feeling the weight of both their gazes. When it was over, Adrian stood. Lena, a word. She followed him into the hallway. He stopped near the staircase, his expression unreadable. My mother enjoys testing people. Don't take it personally. She called me homeless at the dinner table. She's not wrong. Lena's hands clenched. Is that supposed to make it better? It's supposed to prepare you. She'll push. She'll provoke. And if you react, she'll consider you weak. And if I don't, then she might respect you. Lena exhaled slowly. This isn't what I signed up for. Yes, Adrian said quietly. It is. He turned and walked away, leaving Lena alone in the dim hallway. She looked back toward the dining room, where Elena sat in her wheelchair, staring out the window. For the first time since stepping through that door, Lena wondered if she'd made the worst mistake of her life. But it was too late to turn back now. The first session began at 8 the next morning. Lena arrived in the physical therapy room, a space on the second floor outfitted with equipment that most hospitals couldn't afford. Parallel bars, resistance machines, a massage table, everything pristine and untouched. Elena was already there, sitting in her wheelchair with her arms crossed. You're late, she said. It's 8 o'clock. That's when we agreed. I've been awake since 5. That makes you late. Lena set down her bag slowly. We're starting with range of motion exercises. I'll need you to... No. Excuse me? I said no. Elena's gaze was sharp. You don't tell me what to do. Lena took a breath, counted to 3. Mrs. Volkov, I'm here to help you regain mobility. That requires... I know what it requires. I've had 6 months of people like you telling me what I need. I don't need another one. Then what do you need? The question seemed to catch Elena off guard. Her eyes narrowed. What? You heard me? What do you need? Elena leaned back in her chair. I need my body to work. I need to walk without shaking. I need to hold a glass without dropping it. I need to not be this. She gestured at herself with disgust. Lena nodded slowly. Okay, then let's work toward that. I just told you I don't want... I heard you. But here's the thing. I don't care what you want. I care about what you need, and what you need is to move. Elena stared at her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Elena laughed, softly, almost genuinely. You've got nerve, she said. I'll give you that. Is that a yes? Elena's smile faded. It's a maybe. Don't push your luck. But she uncrossed her arms, and Lena knew this was the closest thing to permission she'd get. They worked for 2 hours. Elena resisted, complained, made cutting remarks about Lena's technique, her voice, her shoes, but she didn't stop. By the end, her left arm had lifted 6 inches higher than it had at the start. It wasn't much, but it was something. When the session ended, Elena was breathing hard, her face flushed. Lena handed her a towel. Same time tomorrow, Lena said. Elena wiped her face. You really think you can fix me? I think you can fix yourself. I'm just here to make sure you don't give up. Elena's expression softened, just for a second. Then the walls went back up. We'll see, she muttered. Lena gathered her things and left the room. In the hallway, Adrian was waiting. He didn't say anything, just looked at her. She didn't throw anything, Lena said. I'm calling that a win. Adrian's mouth almost curved into a smile. Good, he said. And for the first time since arriving, Lena felt like maybe, just maybe, she could survive this. But as she walked back to her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something else was waiting, something she hadn't seen yet, something dangerous. 3 weeks passed. Elena's progress was slow but steady. Her range of motion improved, her balance stabilized. She still fought Lena on everything, but the fights became shorter, almost routine. Lena fell into a rhythm. Wake at 6. Breakfast alone. Sessions with Elena from 8 to 11. Lunch. Afternoon sessions. Dinner with Adrian and Elena. Then solitude. The house remained a mystery. There were rooms she wasn't allowed in, conversations that stopped when she entered, visitors who came and went through side doors she never saw. But she didn't ask questions, because the contract had been clear, no questions. Then Victor came back. It was a Thursday evening. Lena was walking past Adrian's office when she heard voices, low, tense, angry. She should have kept walking, but she didn't. She stopped just outside the door. "You're being reckless," Victor's voice said. "Bringing her here was a mistake. That's not your decision to make. It becomes my decision when it affects the business." "She has nothing to do with the business," Victor laughed. "Everyone in this house has something to do with the business, Adrian. You know that." "She's a therapist, that's all." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, she's a liability, and liabilities get exploited." Silence. Then Adrian's voice, cold and cutting. "If you touch her, I'll kill you." Lena's breath stopped. Victor's laughter was soft, almost amused. "There it is. I was wondering when you'd show your hand. Get out." "I'm trying to help you." "Get out." Footsteps approached the door. Lena turned and ran. She made it to the staircase just as the office door opened. She didn't look back, didn't stop. When she reached her room, she locked the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. What the hell did I walk into? She thought about the contract, the rules, the warning signs she'd ignored. And for the first time, Lena realized this wasn't just a job. This was something else entirely, something she didn't understand yet, but would soon, whether she wanted to or not. That night, sleep didn't come. Lena lay in the four-poster bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Victor's words in her mind. Liability, exploited. And Adrian's response, cold, absolute, terrifying in its certainty. If you touch her, I'll kill you. Not a threat, a promise. She'd walked into something far more dangerous than a difficult patient and an eccentric employer. This house had layers she couldn't see, currents running beneath every polished surface. And somehow, without meaning to, she'd become part of whatever dark machinery kept this place running. The clock on the nightstand read 3:47 a.m. when she finally gave up on sleep. She pulled on sweatpants and a hoodie, thinking maybe a glass of water would help. The house was different at night, quieter, but not peaceful. The silence felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. Lena opened her door carefully, wincing when the hinges creaked. The hallway stretched before her, lit only by small accent lights along the baseboards. She moved toward the stairs, her bare feet silent on the Persian runner. She was halfway down when she heard it. Music. Faint, classical, coming from somewhere on the first floor. Piano. Something Russian, she thought, though she couldn't name the piece. Melancholy and beautiful and achingly sad. Lena followed the sound to a room she'd never entered, a set of double doors left slightly ajar. Light spilled through the gap. She approached slowly, her curiosity overwhelming her caution. Through the opening, she could see Elena. The older woman sat at a grand piano, her fingers moving across the keys with a grace that seemed impossible. The same hands that shook when she tried to hold a fork now danced across ivory and ebony, creating something heartbreakingly lovely. Lena stood transfixed. This was Elena before the stroke, or at least the ghost of her. Every movement deliberate, powerful, alive. The piece ended. Elena's hands dropped to her lap. She sat motionless for a long moment, staring at the keys. Then she spoke without turning around. "Are you going to stand there all night, or are you going to come in?" Lena's breath caught. "I didn't mean to intrude, but you did anyway." Elena turned her wheelchair slightly. In the soft lamplight, her face looked different, softer, tired. "Close the door behind you." Lena stepped inside and pushed the door shut. The room was a music salon, shelves lined with records, photographs on the walls showing a younger Elena on stage, in costume, mid-performance. A dancer. Not just any dancer, a principal, from the looks of it. "You were with the Mariinsky," Lena said, recognizing the theater in one of the photos. Bolshoi first, Mariinsky later. Covent Garden. Paris Opera Ballet. Elena's voice was distant, lost in memory. "I danced Odette when I was 19. Critics said I was too young. I proved them wrong." "I can see that." Elena's eyes found hers. Can you? All you see is an old woman in a wheelchair who can't hold a water glass. I see someone who just played a Rachmaninoff prelude with perfect technique despite having had a stroke 6 months ago. Elena's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe, or something close to it. You know Rachmaninoff? My mother played, not like you, but she loved his work. Lena moved closer. How long have you been playing again? I never stopped. Elena gestured at the piano. This still works. Everything else betrayed me, but this remained. Your hands shake during therapy, because therapy reminds me of what I've lost. She touched the keys gently. This reminds me of what I still have. Lena pulled up a chair and sat down. Why didn't you tell me you could do this? Why would I? You're here to fix my body, not admire my talents. But I'm here to help you recover. This is part of recovery. This is proof that the neural pathways are still there, still functioning. If your brain can do this, we can rebuild everything else. Elena's laugh was bitter. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's brutal and frustrating, and it takes time, but it's possible. Lena leaned forward. Why do you fight me so hard during sessions when you clearly have the control to do this? The question hung in the air between them. Elena looked away, her jaw tight. Because this is mine. The therapy. That's surrender. That's admitting I need help, that I'm weak. Accepting help isn't weakness. In my world it was. In Adrian's world it still is. Elena's voice dropped. Control is everything. The moment you show vulnerability, someone takes advantage. I learned that long ago. Adrian seems protective of you. He is. Too protective. Elena's hands curled in her lap. He thinks he can control everything. Fix everything, but some things can't be fixed by force of will. Like what? Elena's eyes met hers, sharp and knowing. Like the world he's built around himself. Like the choices he's made to maintain it. Before Lena could respond, the door opened. Adrian stood in the doorway, dressed in dark pants and an untucked white shirt. He looked between them, his expression unreadable. It's 4 a.m, he said. We couldn't sleep, Elena replied, so we're having a conversation. Is that forbidden now? It is when you should both be resting. I'll rest when I'm dead. Mother, go back to bed, Adrian. Miss Carter and I are fine. Adrian's gaze shifted to Lena. There was something in his eyes. Concern, maybe, or warning. Is that true? Lena nodded. We're just talking. He didn't move. About what? Music, Lena said. Your mother was showing me her playing. The tension in Adrian's shoulders eased slightly. I see. Elena smiled faintly. Relax, darling. I'm not corrupting your therapist. That's not what concerns me. Then what does? Adrian didn't answer. He just looked at his mother with an expression Lena couldn't quite read. Then he turned to leave. Get some rest, he said over his shoulder. Both of you. When he was gone, Elena released a long breath. He worries, she said quietly. About you? About everything. It's exhausting for him, I think, being responsible for so much. Elena's fingers traced the piano keys without pressing down. He wasn't always like this, cold, controlled. When he was young, he laughed. He had friends, a life outside these walls. What changed? Elena's expression darkened. His father died, and Adrian became something else, something harder. Lena wanted to ask more, but something in Elena's face stopped her, some pain too deep to touch. I should go, Lena said, standing. Wait. Elena reached out, her hand trembling slightly until it found Lena's arm. Thank you for not treating me like glass. Lena smiled. I wouldn't dare. Elena's grip tightened just a fraction. Be careful here, Lena. This house has rules you haven't learned yet, and breaking them has consequences. What kind of consequences? But Elena had already turned back to the piano, her hands finding the keys again. The conversation was over. Eat. The next morning, Lena arrived at the therapy room to find Elena already waiting. No complaints about the time, no resistance when Lena began the session. Instead, Elena worked, pushed herself. followed instructions without the usual fight. "You're in a better mood," Lena observed as Elena completed a set of arm raises. "Am I?" Elena's tone was neutral. "Or perhaps I'm simply tired of fighting. I'll take either one." They moved through the exercises with an efficiency they hadn't achieved before. Elena's movements were stronger, more controlled. Whatever wall had been between them felt thinner now. "Tell me about dancing," Lena said as she guided Elena through a leg extension. "What was it like?" Elena's eyes grew distant. "Like flying, like being purely alive. Every movement had meaning. Every gesture told a story." She paused, her leg trembling. And then it was gone. Overnight. One moment I was on stage, the next I was on the floor of my dressing room, unable to move my right side. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Pity is useless." Elena completed the extension, breathing hard. "But I'll tell you what I miss most. Not the applause, not the fame, the control. Knowing my body would do exactly what I commanded. That's gone now, and I don't know if I'll ever get it back." "You will. Not all at once, but you will." "You sound certain." "I am. I've seen what you can do when you want to. The piano last night, that's proof. Your brain knows how. We just have to retrain the pathways." Elena studied her. "You actually believe that?" "I do." "Why? Why do you care if I recover?" The question caught Lena off guard. She paused, considering. "Because you deserve to have control over your own body. Because you're not done yet. And because someone should care." Something shifted in Elena's expression. Not quite softness, but close. "My son chose well," she said quietly. "I'm not sure he chose anything. I showed up at his door." "Adrian never does anything by accident. If you're here, it's because he wanted you here." Elena's gaze sharpened. "The question is why?" Before Lena could respond, the door opened. A housekeeper stood in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. "Mrs. Volkov, Mr. Cade is here to see you." Elena's entire demeanor changed. Her back straightened. Her face became a mask. "Tell him I'm busy." "He's insisting, ma'am." "I don't care what he's insisting. I'm in the middle of therapy." The housekeeper hesitated. "He's waiting in the drawing room." Elena's jaw clenched. "Fine. Give me 10 minutes." The housekeeper left. Elena turned to Lena, her expression hard. "We're done for today." "We still have 30 minutes. I said we're done." The warmth from moments ago was gone. Elena was all sharp edges again, walls rebuilt in seconds. Lena helped her into the wheelchair without comment. As they left the therapy room, Elena gripped the armrest so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Who is Victor Cade?" Lena asked quietly. Elena's eyes cut to her. "Someone you should avoid." "Why?" "Because men like Victor don't see people. They see opportunities, weaknesses, things to exploit." Elena's voice dropped. "And you, my dear, are exactly the type of thing Victor would love to exploit." A chill ran down Lena's spine. "I don't understand." "You will. Sooner than you'd like." Elena wheeled herself toward the drawing room. "Go to your room, stay there until dinner, and whatever you do, don't let Victor see you." "Elena, go. Now." The command in her voice left no room for argument. Lena watched her disappear down the hallway, then turned toward the stairs. But curiosity had always been her weakness. Instead of going up, she moved quietly down a side corridor that ran parallel to the drawing room. There was a service passage she'd noticed during her first week, narrow, used by housekeepers, with a door that opened just beside where the drawing room was. Lena slipped inside. The passage was dim and cramped, lined with shelves holding linens and supplies. She moved carefully until she reached the spot where she could hear voices through the wall. "Treating you well, I hope." Victor's voice, smooth, pleased with itself. "Well enough." Elena's response was clipped. "I was hoping to see more progress. 6 months is a long time." "Recovery doesn't follow schedules." "No, I suppose it doesn't. Still, I'd think with Adrian's resources, you'd have access to the best care available." "I do. And yet here you are, still in that chair." Silence. Lena could feel Elena's rage through the wall. Victor continued, his tone light. "I'm not criticizing, Elena. Simply observing. Adrian's protective of you. Understandable, given everything. But I wonder if he's being too cautious, too controlling. My son's decisions are none of your concern. Of course not. Unless they affect the business. Which, as you know, they do. The business is running fine. Is it? Because from where I stand, Adrian's been distracted, making unusual choices, taking on liabilities. A pause. Bringing strangers into the house, for instance. Lena's breath stopped. You're referring to Miss Carter, Elena said coldly. I am. Lovely girl. Dedicated, from what I hear, but also vulnerable. Homeless, wasn't she? Before Adrian brought her here? That's none of your business. Everything in this house is my business, Elena. We're partners, remember? Adrian and I, which means I have a vested interest in making sure nothing threatens what we've built. Lena isn't a threat. Not intentionally, perhaps, but threats don't need intention. They just need to exist. Victor's voice hardened slightly. People can be used, Elena. You know that as well as I do. The question is whether Adrian understands the risk he's taken. Are you threatening her? I'm stating facts. This world we live in, Adrian's world, it requires careful management. Loose ends get tied up, vulnerabilities get addressed, and right now, that girl is both. Touch her, and Adrian will destroy you. Victor laughed. Will he, I wonder? Adrian's strong, but he's not invincible. He's made mistakes before. This could be another one. Get out of my house. This isn't your house anymore, Elena. It's Adrian's, and by extension, mine. I go where I please. The sound of a wheelchair moving, fast. You will leave, now, or I will call Adrian, and you can explain to him why you're threatening his employee. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm simply ensuring we all understand the stakes. Footsteps, then Victor's voice, closer to the door. Give Adrian my regards, and tell him we need to talk, soon. There are decisions to be made. The drawing room door opened and closed. Lena pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing. She heard Elena's ragged breathing through the wall. The older woman stayed in the drawing room for several minutes, silent. Then, quietly, Lena, I know you're there. Lena's eyes widened. She waited, unsure whether to respond. Come out. Slowly, Lena emerged from the service passage and entered the drawing room through the main door. Elena sat by the window, her face pale. I told you to go to your room, Elena said. I know, I'm sorry. You should be. You heard? Yes, Elena nodded slowly. Then you understand now what I tried to warn you about. He's dangerous. Very. Victor isn't just Adrian's business partner, he's a predator. And he's decided you're a weakness worth exploiting. Lena's hands trembled. What does he want? Control, power. Whatever Adrian has, Victor wants more. And he'll use anything, anyone, to get it. Elena turned to look at her. You need to be careful. No more wandering the house at night, no more eavesdropping. Stay in your designated areas. Do your job. Don't give Victor any reason to notice you more than he already has. He's already noticed. Then pray he loses interest. Elena's voice was fierce. Because if he doesn't, Adrian will have to make a choice. And choices like that have consequences. Well, what kind of consequences? Elena's expression went dark. The kind that get people hurt. Or worse. A door slammed somewhere in the house. Heavy footsteps approached. Adrian entered the drawing room, his face like stone. His eyes went to Elena first, then to Lena. What happened? His voice was low, controlled. But underneath, Lena could hear fury. Victor was here, Elena said simply. Adrian's jaw clenched. What did he say? What he always says. Veiled threats, power games. The usual. Elena paused. He's interested in Lena. Adrian's eyes cut to Lena. Define interested. He sees her as leverage, Elena said. A pressure point. He made that quite clear. For a long moment, Adrian didn't move. Then he crossed to the window and looked out at the garden, his back to them both. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. Did he touch you? It took Lena a moment to realize he was talking to her. No, she said. Did he threaten you directly? No, I wasn't in the room. I heard... She stopped. I overheard. Adrian turned. You were listening. Yes. Why? Because Elena told me to stay away from him, and I wanted to know why. Adrian's expression was unreadable. And now you know. I know he's dangerous. I know he sees me as some kind of weakness. I don't know why. Because you are. Adrian moved closer, his gray eyes locked on hers. You're outside the structure, outside the protections. You don't understand the rules here, which makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability can be weaponized. Then teach me the rules. The rules are simple. Stay away from Victor. Don't engage with him. Don't be alone with him. If he approaches you, you tell me immediately. And if he doesn't? If he just watches? Then I watch him. Adrian's voice went cold. And if he crosses the line, I end it. Elena made a sound, half laugh, half sigh. Adrian, you can't just end Victor. He's too embedded. I can do whatever's necessary to protect this family. I'm not family, Lena said quietly. Adrian's gaze shifted back to her. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like surprise. You're under this roof, he said. That makes you my responsibility. That's not the same thing. It's close enough. Elena watched them both with an expression Lena couldn't read. Then she wheeled herself toward the door. I'm tired, she announced. Lena, we'll resume therapy tomorrow. Adrian, don't do anything stupid. She left without waiting for a response. Lena and Adrian stood in the drawing room, the silence heavy between them. I didn't mean to cause problems, Lena said finally. You didn't. This isn't about you. He made it about me. Victor makes everything about leverage. Don't take it personally. Adrian moved to the sideboard and poured himself a drink. Scotch, neat. He didn't offer her one. This house operates on a specific balance of power. Victor's trying to tip that balance. He's been trying for months. Why? Because he wants control of the business, and to get that he needs to prove I'm weak, distracted, making poor decisions. Adrian drank. Bringing you here was one of those decisions, apparently. Lena's chest tightened. I can leave if it would help. No. The word was absolute. But you just said, I said Victor sees you as a weakness. I didn't say I agreed with him. Adrian set down his glass. You're doing good work with my mother. Real progress. I'm not losing that because Victor's playing games. What if the games get worse? They will. They always do. Adrian's eyes met hers, which is why you need to be careful. Stay in the safe areas of the house. Don't go exploring. Don't trust anyone you don't know. And if something feels wrong, it probably is. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you alert. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I didn't bring you here to put you in danger. I brought you here because my mother needed help and you seemed capable. What's happening now, that's not your fault. Whose fault is it? Adrian's smile was cold. Mine. I built this world. Now I have to maintain it, even when it gets ugly. He left before she could respond. Lena stood alone in the drawing room, her mind racing. Every instinct told her to pack her things and leave. Walk away before this got worse. But she thought about Elena, about the progress they'd made, about the woman who played Rachmaninoff at 4 a.m. because it was the only thing that made her feel whole. And she thought about the contract she'd signed, the money in her account, the stability she hadn't had in months. Leaving meant giving that up. Staying meant risking something she didn't fully understand yet. Lena walked to the window and looked out at the garden. It was beautiful in the afternoon light, manicured, perfect, utterly controlled, just like everything else in this house. She made her decision. She'd stay. For now. But she'd be ready to run the moment things went too far. The problem was, she had no idea where that line was, or whether she'd recognize it when she crossed it. The line revealed itself 3 days later. Lena had just finished an afternoon session with Elena when she heard raised voices coming from the first floor. Not unusual in itself. Adrian conducted business from his office, and sometimes those conversations grew heated. But this was different, louder, more volatile. She helped Elena into her wheelchair, trying to ignore the sound. Don't, Elena said sharply. Lena looked at her. Don't what? Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. I'm not thinking anything. You're a terrible liar. Elena gripped her armrest. Those are dangerous voices. Stay away from them. But even as Elena spoke, the voices grew louder. One was Adrian's, controlled but edged with fury. The other was Victor's, smooth and mocking. Then came a sound that made Lena's blood run cold. A crash, glass shattering, a heavy thud. Elena's face went pale. Get me downstairs. Now. You just said, now, Lena. They moved as quickly as the wheelchair would allow. Down the hallway, into the elevator Adrian had installed for his mother. Elena's hands shook on the controls, but her face was set with determination. The elevator opened onto the first floor. The sounds were clearer now, furniture scraping, someone breathing hard, the unmistakable tension of violence barely restrained. Adrian's office door stood open. Inside, the scene was chaos. A lamp lay broken on the floor, papers scattered everywhere, and Adrian stood in the center of it all, his shirt torn at the collar, a thin line of blood trailing from the corner of his mouth. His hands were clenched into fists, his entire body coiled like a weapon waiting to strike. Across from him, Victor leaned against the desk, perfectly composed except for the slight redness on his jaw. He was smiling. There she is, Victor said, his eyes finding Lena in the doorway. The woman of the hour. Adrian's head snapped toward the door. When he saw Lena and his mother, something flashed across his face. Anger, fear, something darker. Get out, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Both of you. Elena wheeled herself forward instead. What's happening here? Business, Victor said casually, though it seems to have gotten a bit heated. Your son has quite a temper when properly motivated. What did you do? Elena's voice was ice. Me? Nothing. I simply suggested that Adrian's recent decisions have been compromising, that perhaps his judgment has been clouded by personal attachments. Victor's eyes slid back to Lena. I may have mentioned that such attachments create vulnerabilities, opportunities for those who know how to exploit them. Adrian moved so fast Lena barely saw it. One moment he was standing in the center of the room, the next he had Victor by the collar, slamming him against the wall. Say her name again, Adrian said, his voice terrifyingly calm. I dare you. Victor's smile never wavered. Lena Carter, 28 years old, physical therapist, formerly homeless, currently living under your roof, under your protection, completely dependent on your goodwill. Should I continue? Adrian's fist connected with the wall beside Victor's head. The impact left a dent in the plaster. Adrian! Elena's voice cut through the tension. Let him go! He's threatening her. He's baiting you, and you're giving him exactly what he wants. Adrian's jaw clenched, but he didn't release Victor. He needs to understand. I understand perfectly, Victor interrupted, his tone light despite the hand at his throat. You care about her, more than is wise, more than is safe, and that makes her the perfect pressure point. She has nothing to do with any of this. Then why are you choking me over her name? Victor's smile widened. Face it, Adrian, you've made her part of this. The moment you brought her into this house, you made her a piece on the board, and pieces get played. Adrian's control finally snapped. He pulled Victor forward and slammed him against the wall again, harder this time. You touch her, you look at her wrong, you so much as think about using her against me, and I will destroy everything you've built. Your reputation, your investments, your life. I will erase you so completely that no one will remember you existed. Victor actually laughed. There it is. The real Adrian Volkov, not the controlled businessman, but the monster underneath. I was beginning to think you'd gone soft. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Don't I? Victor's eyes gleamed. I've known you for 15 years, Adrian. I know exactly what you're capable of. The question is whether you're willing to show her. He nodded toward Lena. Does she know what you really are? What you've done? Or is she still operating under the delusion that you're just a protective son taking care of his aging mother? Lena's breath caught. The weight of Victor's words settled over the room like a shroud. Adrian's hand tightened on Victor's collar. For a moment, Lena thought he might actually kill him. The fury in his eyes was absolute, primal, terrifying. Then Elena spoke, her voice cutting through the violence. Adrian, look at me. Adrian's eyes didn't move from Victor. Look. At me. Slowly, Adrian turned his head. His mother's face was pale but composed, her gaze steady. This is what he wants, Elena said quietly. He wants you to lose control, to prove you're weak. Don't give it to him. He threatened her. He threatened a lot of things. Words are cheap, actions matter. Elena wheeled closer. Let him go. Now. Before you do something you can't undo. The seconds stretched out. Lena could see Adrian's internal battle playing out across his face, rage warring with reason, instinct fighting discipline. Finally, he released Victor and stepped back. Victor straightened his collar, still smiling. Well, that was enlightening. Get out, Adrian said, his voice dead calm. And don't come back. This is my business too. Not anymore. I'm buying you out. Name your price. Victor's smile faltered. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious. You want money? Fine, you'll have it. But you're done here. Done with this company, done with this house, done with my family. The board won't approve. I am the board. Majority shareholder, remember? You work for me, Victor. You always have. I tolerated you because you were useful. You're not useful anymore. You're a liability. Victor's composure finally cracked. His smile vanished, replaced by something colder. You're making a mistake. No. Bringing you in was the mistake. This is me correcting it. You think you can just erase me? I have connections, leverage, information that could threaten me? Adrian moved closer, his voice dropping to something that made Lena's skin crawl. Try it, see what happens. But I promise you, Victor, whatever you think you know, whatever cards you think you're holding, they won't save you. I've spent 15 years building an empire. You really think I don't have contingencies? The two men stared at each other, the air between them crackling with hostility. Finally, Victor straightened his jacket. Fine, draw up the papers. I'll expect fair market value plus 20% for the inconvenience. You'll get market value, not $1 more. Then I'll see you in court. No, you won't. Because if you fight me on this, I'll make sure every deal you've ever made, every corner you've cut, every rule you've bent comes to light. And trust me, there are a lot of them. Adrian's smile was cold. Take the money, Victor. Walk away. It's more mercy than you deserve. Victor's face flushed with anger. He looked at Elena, then at Lena, then back at Adrian. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Adrian replied. It is. Victor walked to the door, his movements stiff with barely contained rage. He paused beside Lena, close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive and cloying. Enjoy your new home, he said softly. I hope it's worth what it's going to cost you. Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. The silence he left behind was deafening. Adrian stood motionless in the center of the destroyed office, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. Blood still marked the corner of his mouth. His knuckles were scraped raw. Elena wheeled toward him. Are you hurt? No. Liar. Sit down. I'm fine. Adrian Mikhailovich Volkov, sit down before you fall down. The use of his full name seemed to break through his defenses. Adrian sank into his desk chair, his hands gripping the armrests. Elena turned to Lena. First aid kit, bathroom cabinet, second floor. Go. Lena ran. Her mind was spinning with everything she'd witnessed, but her body moved on autopilot. Up the stairs, into the bathroom, grabbing the kit from the cabinet. Back down. When she returned, Elena had positioned herself beside Adrian, one trembling hand on his shoulder. He sat perfectly still, staring at nothing. Give it to me, Elena said, reaching for the kit. But her hands were shaking too badly. She couldn't open it. Let me, Lena said quietly. Elena hesitated, then nodded and wheeled back. Lena moved closer to Adrian. He didn't look at her as she opened the kit and pulled out antiseptic wipes and bandages. This might sting, she said, reaching for his face. His hand shot up, catching her wrist. Not hard, but firm. His gray eyes finally focused on her. You should leave, he said. I'm just trying to... Not the room, the house. Leave, tonight. I'll arrange transport. Give you 3 months severance, references, whatever you need. Lena's heart stuttered. What? No, I'm not leaving. You saw what just happened. I saw you defend yourself. And me. I nearly killed a man in front of you. But you didn't. Lena pulled her wrist free and touched the antiseptic wipe to the cut on his mouth. He flinched but didn't pull away. You stopped. Because of your mother. Because of yourself. This time. Then we'll make sure there isn't a next time. Adrian's laugh was hollow. You don't understand what you've walked into. Then explain it to me. I can't. Why not? Because... Adrian stopped, his jaw clenching. Because some things are better left unknown, safer. Elena made a sound, half sigh, half groan. Adrian, enough. She's not a child. She deserves the truth. The truth will put her in more danger. She's already in danger. Victor made sure of that. Elena's voice was firm. Tell her, or I will. Adrian looked at his mother for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged, just slightly, the first sign of defeat Lena had ever seen from him. My father, he said slowly, built an empire. Import, export. Legitimate on the surface. Underneath, he paused. Underneath was something else. Something darker. When he died 10 years ago, I inherited all of it. The clean business and the dirty secrets. Lena's hands stilled. What kind of secrets? The kind that keep people wealthy and powerful. The kind that require constant management, constant control. Adrian's eyes met hers. I've spent a decade cleaning up what my father left behind, severing ties to dangerous people, legitimizing operations. But it's slow work. And people like Victor, they don't want legitimacy. They want the power that comes from operating in the shadows. So Victor was part of your father's original business. He was my father's right hand, his enforcer. When I took over, Victor expected to maintain that position. Instead, I started cutting him out, piece by piece, making the business cleaner, smaller, safer. He's been fighting it for years, and he thinks I'm a weakness he can exploit. You are. Adrian's voice was blunt. Not because you're weak, but because I care what happens to you, and caring creates vulnerability. In this world, vulnerability gets people killed. The words hung in the air between them. Lena finished cleaning his wounds in silence, her mind racing. She should be terrified. She should be packing her bags right now, running as far from this house as possible. But instead, she felt something else, something she couldn't quite name. I'm not leaving, she said again. Adrian's eyes narrowed. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Elena needs me. She's making real progress. And Lena paused, searching for words. I'm not running anymore. I've spent the last 3 months running from my problems, from my failures. I'm done running. This isn't failure. This is survival. Survival is just another word for running. Lena met his gaze. You said I was desperate when I got here. You were right. But I'm not desperate anymore. I'm choosing to stay. There's a difference. Elena made a sound that might have been approval. Adrian stared at Lena like she was speaking a foreign language. You understand that by staying, you're making yourself a target. Then teach me how to protect myself. It's not that simple. Nothing here is simple. I figured that out. Lena finished bandaging his knuckles and stepped back. But I'm not helpless, and I'm not stupid. Tell me the rules. Tell me what to watch for. Let me make informed decisions instead of stumbling around blind. Adrian looked at his mother. Elena smiled faintly. I like her. She's got spine. Spine gets people killed. So does cowardice. At least she's choosing her risks. Elena wheeled toward the door. I'm going to rest. You two figure this out. But Adrian, if you send her away against her will, I'll never forgive you. She left before he could respond. The office felt different with just the two of them. Smaller, more intimate. Lena was suddenly aware of how close she was standing, of the scent of his cologne mixed with blood and adrenaline. Adrian stood slowly, moving to the window. Victor won't give up easily. Even if I buy him out, he'll look for ways to hurt me, to prove I'm weak. And you're the most obvious target. So we eliminate the opportunity. How? You said I'm vulnerable because I'm outside the structure. So bring me inside. Adrian turned. What? Whatever protections your family has, extend them to me. Make it clear I'm under your authority, that hurting me means answering to you. Lena moved closer. Victor's a predator. Predators go after easy prey. Make me hard prey. That would require... Adrian stopped, his brow furrowing. That would require formal acknowledgement, documentation, making you part of the household in an official capacity. Then do it. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. I'm asking you to protect me the same way you protect your mother, your staff, anyone else under this roof. Lena's voice was steady. You said I was your responsibility, so take responsibility. Adrian studied her, his expression unreadable. If I do this, there's no going back. You'll be bound to this house. To me. To all the complications that come with it. I'm already bound. I just want the protection that comes with it. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Adrian moved to his desk, pulled out his phone, and made a call. Marcus, I need you to draft an amendment to Miss Carter's contract, employee status to household member. Full protections under the family trust, active immediately. He paused, listening. I don't care if it's unusual. Just do it. Another pause. Tomorrow morning is fine. Send it to my office. He ended the call and looked at Lena. Done. As of tomorrow, you'll be legally considered part of this household, which means anyone who comes after you comes after me. Lena released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You have no idea what you've just signed up for. Maybe not, but I'd rather face it than run from it. Adrian's expression softened just slightly. You really are either very brave or very foolish. I'm starting to think they're the same thing. A sound that might have been a laugh escaped him, brief, unexpected. Maybe they are. He moved past her toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, he said without turning around, I'm glad you're staying. Then he was gone, leaving Lena alone in the destroyed office. She sank into one of the chairs, her hands trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. Everything had changed in the span of an hour. The invisible line she'd been worried about crossing, she just leaped over it with both feet. But instead of fear, what she felt was something else. Relief. For the first time since losing her apartment, her job, her stability, Lena wasn't running toward something or away from something. She was choosing to stand still, to stay, to fight. Whatever came next, she'd face it here, in this house, with these people, for better or worse. The next 2 days passed in tense quiet. Victor didn't return, but his absence felt more threatening than his presence, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. Lena threw herself into work with Elena. The older woman seemed energized by recent events, pushing herself harder than ever. Her progress accelerated, arm strength improving, leg control stabilizing, balance becoming more reliable. You're angry, Lena observed during a particularly intense session. Elena completed a difficult leg extension before responding. I'm motivated by anger. Among other things, Elena straightened in her wheelchair. Victor made me feel helpless. I hate feeling helpless. So you're working harder to prove you're not. Exactly. Elena's eyes were fierce. I may be in this chair, but I'm not broken. I'm not weak. And I'm certainly not going to let men like Victor define what I'm capable of. Lena smiled. Good. Use that. They worked until Elena was exhausted, sweat dampening her hairline. But when they finished, she'd completed every exercise without complaint. You're going to walk again, Lena said as she helped Elena with cool-down stretches. Not someday, soon. Elena's expression was unreadable. You sound certain. I am. Your neural pathways are reconnecting faster than I expected. Your muscle tone is improving. Your balance is stabilizing. Give it another month, maybe 2, and you'll be taking steps. And if I'm not, then we keep working until you are. Elena's hand found Lena's arm, gripping tightly. Thank you for believing when I couldn't. That's what I'm here for. No. Elena's voice was firm. You're here because Adrian needed help. You stayed because you chose to. That's different, and it matters. Before Lena could respond, Adrian appeared in the doorway. The papers are ready, he said, if you still want to sign them. Lena stood. I do. They went to his office, now cleaned up, the broken lamp replaced, the papers reorganized. On the desk sat a folder containing the amended contract. Lena read through it carefully. The language was dense and legal, but the meaning was clear. She was no longer just an employee. She was part of the household trust. Under the protection of the Volkov name, connected to this family in a way that went beyond money. This is permanent, Adrian said as she read. Even if you leave, the protections remain, the connection remains. I understand. Do you? Because once you sign this, you're tied to me, to my choices, my enemies, my world. Lena looked up at him. I'm already tied to it. This just makes it official. She signed without hesitation. Adrian watched her, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he signed as well, and it was done. Welcome to the family, he said quietly. Such as it is. That night, Lena couldn't sleep again. But this time, when she wandered downstairs, she found Adrian in the library instead of Elena at the piano. He sat in a leather chair by the window, a glass of scotch in one hand, staring out at the dark garden. Can't sleep? He asked without looking at her. Too much in my head. I know the feeling. Lena moved into the room, studying the bookshelves. First editions, rare volumes, the kind of collection that represented generations of wealth. Your father collected these? She asked. My father had no interest in books. Adrian took a drink. He was more interested in power, control, making sure everyone knew their place. What was he like? Adrian was silent for a long moment. Terrifying, brilliant, completely immoral. He built an empire by being willing to do things other people wouldn't, and he taught me to do the same. But you changed direction. I tried. I'm still trying. Adrian's voice was tired. Every day is a choice between who I was raised to be and who I want to become. Some days I'm not sure which side is winning. Lena sat down in the chair across from him. You stopped yourself from killing Victor. That says something. It says I have a shred of self-control left. That's not the same as being good. Maybe not, but it's a start. Adrian finally looked at her. In the dim light, his face was softer somehow, less controlled, more human. Why did you really stay? He asked. The truth. Lena considered the question. Because I was tired of feeling powerless, tired of letting circumstances control me. When Victor threatened me, when you defended me, I realized I had a choice. I could run and spend the rest of my life running, or I could stand my ground and fight for something that mattered. And this matters to you? This house? These people? Elena matters to me. She's strong and brilliant and refusing to give up even though her body betrayed her. That matters. And you? Lena paused. You're trying to be better than what you were raised to be. That matters too. Adrian's expression shifted, surprise maybe, or something deeper. You see me differently than most people do, he said. How do most people see you? As dangerous, powerful, someone to fear or use. He set down his glass. No one sees me as someone trying. Then they're not looking hard enough. The words settled between them, heavy with meaning. Adrian stood and moved to the window, his back to her. You should know, buying out Victor won't end this. He'll retaliate, not openly, but through other channels. He has connections, resources, people who owe him favors. So what do? We prepare, shore up defenses, make sure every vulnerability is protected. He turned to face her, which means you don't leave the property without security. You don't take calls from unknown numbers. You report anything unusual immediately. You make it sound like we're going to war. We are. Victor just doesn't know he's already lost. There was something in his voice, certainty mixed with danger, that made Lena's pulse quicken. How can you be sure? Adrian's smile was cold. Because I've been preparing for this since the day I took over my father's business. Every contract, every alliance, every contingency plan. Victor thinks he has leverage. He doesn't. He has the illusion of power, and illusions shatter. When? Soon. Adrian moved closer. But until then, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Lena looked up at him, this man who'd given her shelter when she had none, who'd defended her against threats she didn't fully understand, who was fighting a war with weapons she couldn't see to protect a life she'd only just started rebuilding. Yes, she said. I can. Something flickered in Adrian's eyes. Relief, Gratitude. Something else entirely. Good, he said softly. Because what comes next requires absolute trust, and I can't do it alone. What came next arrived in silence. Not the dramatic confrontation Lena had braced for, but something quieter, more calculated. Adrian moved through the following days like a chess player 3 moves ahead of everyone else, each decision precise, each conversation weighted with purpose. Lena noticed the changes immediately. New security personnel appeared at the property's perimeter, discreet, professional, always watching. Adrian's meetings multiplied, held behind closed doors with men in expensive suits who arrived and departed without introduction. Phone calls came at odd hours. Adrian's voice always calm but edged with steel. Elena noticed, too. He's dismantling something, she said one morning during therapy. They were working on standing exercises, Elena gripping the parallel bars with hands that grew steadier each day. I've seen him like this before. When he took over from his father, methodical, ruthless. Should I be worried? Lena asked, adjusting Elena's posture. Not for yourself, for whoever's in his way. Elena shifted her weight, testing her balance. Adrian doesn't fight loud. He fights smart. By the time his enemies realize what's happening, they've already lost. Is that what Victor is? An enemy? Victor became Adrian's enemy the moment he threatened you. Elena's voice was matter of fact. My son has many flaws, but he's fiercely protective of what he considers his. And like it or not, you're his now. The words sent an unexpected tremor through Lena's chest. I'm not anyone's. Elena smiled, a knowing expression that reminded Lena uncomfortably of how little she could hide from this woman. Keep telling yourself that. They worked in silence for another 20 minutes. Elena's progress was remarkable. She could support her full weight for nearly a minute now, her legs trembling but holding. Each session pushed her closer to something that had seemed impossible months ago. When they finished, Elena was exhausted but glowing with accomplishment. Lena helped her into the wheelchair, then handed her a towel. I want to try something tomorrow, Elena said, wiping her face. What? Walking, just a few steps, with support. Lena's heart lifted. You're ready? I don't know, but I'm tired of wondering. Elena's eyes were fierce. I want to know if I can do it, if I'm still capable of standing on my own. You are. I know you are. Then we'll find out together. That afternoon, Lena found Adrian in his office, surrounded by documents. He looked up when she entered, his expression shifting from intense focus to something softer. How is she? He asked. Strong, determined. She wants to try walking tomorrow. Adrian set down his pen. Walking. Just a few steps, with support. But yes. For a moment, Adrian didn't respond. Then something that looked like emotion flickered across his face. Hope? Maybe. Or fear of hoping too much. If she can do that... He stopped, his voice rough. That would change everything. I know. Adrian stood and moved to the window, his hands in his pockets. I haven't seen her stand unaided since the stroke. Watching her in that chair, knowing she used to move like poetry. He paused. Thank you for giving that back to her. I haven't given it back yet. She did the work. But you made her believe she could. Adrian turned to look at her. That matters more than you know. The weight of his gaze made Lena's pulse quicken. There was something different in the way he looked at her now. Not the clinical assessment from their first meeting, but something warmer, more personal. I should let you work, she said, suddenly needing distance. Wait! Adrian crossed to his desk and picked up a small box. I had this made for you. He handed it to her. Inside was a pendant on a thin gold chain, simple, elegant, with a small red stone set in the center. It's beautiful, Lena said, confused. But I can't. It's not jewelry. It's a panic button. Adrian took the pendant and showed her a small mechanism on the back. Press this for 3 seconds and it sends an alert to my phone and the security team. Wherever you are, we'll know, and we'll come. Lena stared at the delicate piece. You think I'll need it? I think Victor hasn't made his move yet, and when he does, I want you protected. Adrian's voice was firm. Wear it, always, even when you think you're safe, especially then. Lena took the pendant and fastened it around her neck. The weight of it settled against her collarbone, small but significant. "Thank you," she said quietly. Adrian's eyes lingered on the pendant, then on her face. For a moment, Lena thought he might say something else, but instead, he just nodded and returned to his desk. Lena left the office feeling like something had shifted between them. Something unspoken but undeniable. That night, she lay in bed running her fingers over the pendant, thinking about trust and protection and the strange intimacy of being guarded by someone who barely knew her 3 months ago. Sleep came eventually, but it was restless, full of dreams about falling and being caught, about walking through doors that led nowhere, about gray eyes watching her from shadows. She woke to her phone buzzing. 4:23 a.m. A text from an unknown number. "You've made your choice. Live with the consequences." Lena's blood went cold. She grabbed the phone, hands shaking, and immediately called Adrian. He answered on the first ring, his voice alert despite the hour. "What's wrong?" "I got a text from an unknown number." "What did it say?" Lena read it to him. She could hear movement on his end, footsteps, a door opening. "I'm coming to your room. Don't open the door for anyone else." He arrived 2 minutes later, dressed in dark pants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled from sleep. 2 security personnel flanked him. "Show me," he said. Lena handed him the phone. Adrian studied the message, his expression darkening. "Block the number. Give me your phone." He took it and handed it to one of the security guards. "Run a trace. I want to know who sent this and from where." The guard nodded and disappeared. Adrian turned back to Lena. "Pack a bag. You're moving to the guest suite on the family wing, closer to my room. More secure." "Adrian, I don't think that wasn't a request." His voice was hard. "Victor's escalating. I'm not taking chances." Lena wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about control. It was about fear, genuine, visceral fear for her safety. "Okay," she said. "I'll pack." 20 minutes later, she was settled in a new room 3 doors down from Adrian's, larger than her previous space, with reinforced locks and windows that didn't open from the inside. A gilded cage, beautiful and suffocating. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching as she set down her bag. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "For bringing you into this. For making you a target. You didn't make me anything. Victor did that." Lena sat on the edge of the bed. "Besides, I signed the papers. I chose this." "You chose to help my mother, not to be threatened in the middle of the night." "Maybe not, but here we are." Adrian moved into the room, his presence somehow making the space feel smaller. "I'm going to end this, soon, but until then, I need you to be careful, more than careful, paranoid." "I don't know how to be paranoid." "Then learn, fast." Adrian's voice was urgent. "Don't trust anyone you don't know. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't accept packages or gifts from anyone but me or my mother. And if anything feels wrong, you press that pendant and you run. Run where? Away from the threat, toward people, toward noise. Make yourself visible. Victor's power works in shadows. Shine light on him, and he loses." Lena nodded, trying to absorb the instructions. This was a different world, with different rules. And she was learning them on the fly. "Will you tell me what you're planning?" she asked. "With Victor?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "The less you know, the safer you are." "That's not fair. If I'm a target, I deserve to know why." "You're a target because Victor wants to hurt me. That's all you need to know." "No." Lena stood, facing him. "That's not enough. I'm not a child, and I'm not helpless. Tell me what's happening. Trust me the way you're asking me to trust you." Adrian stared at her, conflict clear in his eyes. Then he sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "I'm taking apart his network," he said finally. "Every connection, every ally, every business relationship. I've been working on it for weeks, but the confrontation accelerated the timeline. By the end of the month, Victor will have nothing. No power, no influence, no way to threaten anyone." "How?" "Money, information, leverage, the same tools he tried to use against me." Adrian's voice was cold. "I know where his investments are, who his partners are, what secrets he's keeping, and I'm systematically destroying it all." "That sounds dangerous." "It is. For him." Adrian moved closer. But it requires precision. One wrong move and he could strike back before I finish. That's why I need you safe. If he gets to you, it gives him leverage, a way to stop me. Lena understood now. This wasn't just protection. It was strategy. She was a piece on the board, and Adrian was guarding her while he maneuvered his opponent into checkmate. What if he doesn't wait? She asked. What if he comes after me now? He won't. Not directly. Victor's smart enough to know that would be a declaration of war. What he'll do is probe, test, look for weaknesses. Adrian's eyes held hers. Which is why you can't show any. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. You've been doing it since you walked through my door. You were homeless, desperate, and terrified. But you didn't show it. You held yourself together and made me believe you were strong enough to handle my mother. Adrian's voice softened. You convinced me you were brave. Now convince Victor. The words settled over Lena like armor. Heavy, but protective. Okay, she said. I can do that. Adrian nodded. Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning. He started toward the door, then paused. Lena. Yes? Thank you for not running. Then he was gone, leaving her alone in the new room with its reinforced locks and panic pendant and the weight of being important enough to protect. Morning brought Elena's attempt to walk. Lena arrived at the therapy room early, her stomach tight with anticipation and nerves. Elena was already there, dressed in comfortable clothes, her face set with determination. Ready? Lena asked. I've been ready for months. Let's do this. They started with warm-ups, stretches, and range of motion exercises to prepare Elena's muscles. Then Lena positioned her at the parallel bars, just as they'd done dozens of times before. But today was different. Today, Elena was going to try to walk. I want you to stand first, Lena said, positioning herself beside Elena. Just like yesterday. Get your balance. Feel your weight distributed evenly. Elena gripped the bars and pushed herself up. Her legs shook, but they held. She stood there, breathing hard, her knuckles white on the metal bars. Good. Now I want you to shift your weight to your left leg. Just a little. Test it. Elena did, wobbling slightly. Lena's hands hovered near her waist, ready to catch her if she fell. Now back to center, and shift to the right. They practiced weight shifting for 10 minutes until Elena's movements became smoother, more confident. Okay, Lena said, her heart pounding. Now we try a step, just one. Left foot forward. I'll be right here. Elena's face was pale but determined. She looked down at her left foot, as if willing it to obey. Then she lifted it. Just an inch, just for a second. But it moved. Elena gasped. Lena felt tears prick her eyes. Again, Elena said, her voice shaking. I want to try again. The second attempt was better. Elena lifted her foot, shifted her weight, and moved it forward. 3 inches, maybe 4. But it was a step. A real, genuine step. Elena stood there, stunned, staring down at her foot as if it belonged to someone else. I did it, she whispered. I actually did it. You did. And you're going to do it again. They practiced for another hour. Elena managed 5 steps total, slow, shaking, supported by the bars and Lena's steady presence. But they were steps, movement, progress. When they finished, Elena collapsed into her wheelchair, exhausted and crying. I didn't think... She stopped, wiping her eyes. I didn't think I'd ever walk again. I thought this was it, the wheelchair, forever. Lena knelt beside her. You're not done yet, not even close. I know that now, because of you. Elena gripped Lena's hand. Thank you for not giving up on me when I'd given up on myself. The door opened. Adrian stood in the doorway, and Lena realized someone must have called him. She walked, Lena said, smiling through her own tears. Adrian's expression transformed. The hard mask cracked, revealing something raw beneath. He crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt in front of his mother. Show me, he said, his voice rough. Elena looked at Lena, who nodded. Together they helped Elena back to the parallel bars. She gripped them, steadied herself, and took a single, trembling step. Adrian watched like he was witnessing a miracle. When Elena sat back down, he pressed his forehead to hers, a gesture so intimate and unguarded that Lena felt like she was intruding. "I'm so proud of you," Adrian said quietly. Elena laughed through her tears. "I'm proud of me too." They stayed like that for a long moment, mother and son, warrior and guardian, connected by something deeper than blood. Finally, Adrian stood and turned to Lena. The gratitude in his eyes was overwhelming. "You gave her back her life," he said. "She was always there. I just helped her find the way back." Adrian looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just nodded and left the room. Elena watched him go, then turned to Lena with a knowing smile. "He's falling for you, you know." Lena's breath caught. "What? No, he's just grateful. I've known my son for 38 years. I know the difference between gratitude and something else." Elena's eyes twinkled. "And this is something else." "Elena, I'm not saying it's simple. Nothing about Adrian is simple. But the way he looks at you—" Elena paused. "I haven't seen him look at anyone like that since before his father died. Like you're something worth protecting, worth keeping." Lena's cheeks burned. "You're reading too much into this." "Am I? Then why are you blushing?" Lena had no answer for that. The breakthrough with Elena seemed to shift something in the house. The tension didn't disappear, but it felt different now. Like hope was creeping in through the cracks. Adrian's campaign against Victor continued in the background. Phone calls, meetings, documents signed and filed, but he seemed lighter somehow, less burdened. 3 days after Elena's first steps, Lena found herself in the library again late at night. She'd been reading one of the first editions, a collection of Russian poetry she couldn't understand but found beautiful anyway. "Can't sleep again?" Adrian's voice came from the doorway. She smiled. "Is this going to become a habit?" "Maybe. I find I sleep better knowing where you are." The admission hung between them. Lena set down the book. "Your mother walked 6 steps today," she said. "Unassisted. Just holding my hands for balance." Adrian moved into the room, pouring himself a drink. "I heard. The staff is calling it a miracle." "It's not a miracle. It's work. And stubbornness." "Sounds like someone else I know." Adrian sat in his usual chair. "You're stubborn too. In case no one's told you." "I've been told. Usually not as a compliment." "It should be. Stubbornness keeps you alive in situations where sensible people quit." Lena studied him. In the soft light of the library, he looked less like the dangerous businessman and more like someone carrying a weight he couldn't put down. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You can ask. I may not answer." "Why did you really let me stay? The first night. You could have sent me away. Should have, probably. But you didn't." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe because you reminded me of someone." "Who?" "Myself, years ago. Desperate. Running from something, willing to take a chance on something dangerous just to survive." He looked at her. "I saw that in your eyes, and I thought, if someone had given me a chance back then, maybe things would have been different." "Different how?" "Lighter, less complicated, less—" He gestured vaguely at the expensive room around them. "Less like this." "You regret it? What you've built?" "I regret what I had to become to build it. The choices I made, the things I did." Adrian's voice was heavy. "My father taught me that power requires ruthlessness, that showing mercy is showing weakness. For a long time, I believed him. And now I'm not sure what I believe, except that maybe there's another way. A way that doesn't require sacrificing every piece of yourself to stay on top." He met her eyes. "You make me believe that's possible." Lena's heart stuttered. "Me?" "You walked into a dangerous situation with nothing but courage and stubbornness. You didn't compromise yourself, didn't become someone else to survive. You just—" Adrian paused, searching for words. "You just stayed you, and somehow that was enough. It wasn't courage, it was desperation. Maybe they're the same thing too." They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken things filling the space between them. "Adrian," Lena said finally, "what happens when this is over? When Victor's gone and your mother's walking and everything's safe again?" "I don't know." "Why?" "Because I need to know if I'm just a temporary solution, something you needed right now but won't need later." Adrian set down his glass and leaned forward. You're not temporary. How do you know? Because temporary things don't change the fundamental structure of a place. They pass through. He stopped, his jaw tightening. You've become part of the foundation. The house would feel wrong without you in it. Lena's breath caught. That's a lot of weight to put on someone. I know. I'm sorry. But you asked for the truth. I did. I just wasn't expecting. She gestured helplessly. This. Neither was I. Adrian's voice was quiet. But here we are. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility and danger, and something neither of them was quite ready to name. Then Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. What is it? Lena asked. Marcus, my lawyer. He's been monitoring Victor's accounts. Adrian stood, reading the message. Victor just liquidated 3 major holdings, converted everything to cash. What does that mean? It means he knows what's coming. He's preparing to run. Adrian's smile was cold. Or to fight back one last time. Which one? I'll know soon. He looked at her, and the softness from moments ago was gone, replaced by the strategist, the warrior. Stay in the family wing tonight. Don't leave for any reason. I'm doubling security. Adrian, please, just do this for me. The urgency in his voice silenced any argument. Lena nodded. Okay, I'll stay. Thank you. Adrian moved to the door, then paused. Whatever happens in the next few days, remember that you're protected. No matter what Victor does, he can't touch you. I won't let him. Then he was gone, leaving Lena alone with the weight of his promise and the fear of what was coming. The call came at dawn. Lena woke to pounding on her door. She grabbed her robe and rushed to open it, finding Adrian dressed in all black, his face grim. Victor's at the property line, he said, with lawyers and police. Police? He's claiming I've been engaging in illegal business practices, that he has evidence. They have a warrant to search the premises. Lena's stomach dropped. What do we do? You stay here. Don't answer any questions. Don't speak to anyone but me or my lawyer. Understand? Yes. Good. Adrian started to leave, then turned back. This is his final play. Whatever happens, stay calm. I have this under control. He left before she could respond. Lena dressed quickly and went to Elena's room. The older woman was already awake, sitting by the window with her wheelchair nearby. I heard, Elena said. Victor's making his move. Adrian said he has it under control. He does. Adrian's been preparing for this since Victor first showed interest in you. This isn't an attack, it's Victor walking into a trap. Elena smiled grimly. My son learned from the best, and his father was very, very good at destroying people who threatened the family. Downstairs, Lena could hear voices, footsteps, the organized chaos of an investigation. But up here, in the family wing, everything felt strangely calm, like the eye of a hurricane. And somewhere below, Adrian was fighting a war with nothing but words and documents, and the cold precision of someone who'd spent 15 years preparing for exactly this moment. Victor had made his final move. Now they'd see if it was enough, or if Adrian had been 3 steps ahead all along. The waiting was the worst part. Lena and Elena sat in the older woman's room as the sounds of the search drifted up from below. Muffled voices, footsteps, doors opening and closing. The methodical invasion of their sanctuary. How long will this take? Lena asked, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. As long as they need to find nothing. Elena's voice was calm, almost amused. Victor thinks he's cornered Adrian. What he doesn't realize is that Adrian cleaned this house years ago. Every illegal connection his father made, every questionable dealing, all of it gone. Buried or legitimized or destroyed. Then why did Victor bring the police? Because he's desperate, and desperate men make mistakes. Elena wheeled closer to the window, looking down at the garden where several officers stood talking to Adrian and his lawyer. Watch. This will be over before lunch. But the minutes crawled by like hours. Lena's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. What if they found something Adrian had missed? What if Victor had planted evidence? What if this was just the beginning of something worse? At 9:30, there was a knock at the door. One of the housekeepers stood in the hallway, her expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Volkov, Miss Carter, Mr. Volkov requests your presence in the main drawing room. Elena and Lena exchanged glances. Is it over? Elena asked. I believe so, ma'am. They made their way downstairs. The house was full of people, police officers, lawyers, men in suits taking photographs and notes. But the energy had shifted. The aggressive efficiency of the search had given way to something more resigned, defeated. In the drawing room, Adrian stood by the window with Marcus, his lawyer. Victor sat in a chair across from them, flanked by his own legal team. His face was pale, his usual composure cracked. The lead investigator, a tall woman with graying hair and sharp eyes, stood in the center of the room holding a folder. Mrs. Volkov, Miss Carter, she said, nodding to them. I'm Detective Morrison. I apologize for the disruption this morning. Have you found what you were looking for? Elena asked coolly. Morrison's expression was carefully neutral. We've completed our search of the premises. Mr. Cade's allegations suggested we would find evidence of money laundering, illegal imports, and various RICO violations. She paused. We found none of that. Victor's jaw clenched. What we did find, Morrison continued, was an extremely well-documented, legitimate business operation. Every transaction recorded, every contract filed properly, every tax return squeaky clean. She looked at Victor. Mr. Cade, I'm going to need you to explain the discrepancy between your allegations and what we've discovered. The records are falsified, Victor said, his voice tight. Adrian's had years to cover his tracks. We brought forensic accountants, Morrison interrupted. The documents aren't falsified, they're authentic. Some of them date back 15 years. Unless you're suggesting Mr. Volkov has been planning to frame you since he was 23 years old. Victor's face flushed. He's manipulated everything. Or, Adrian said quietly, you've made a serious error in judgment. Morrison turned to Adrian. Mr. Volkov, do you wish to press charges against Mr. Cade for filing a false police report? The room went silent. Adrian looked at Victor for a long moment. There was no triumph in his expression, just cold calculation. No, he said finally. I don't. Victor's eyes widened slightly. However, Adrian continued, I do want it noted that this search was conducted based on malicious and unfounded allegations, and I want Mr. Cade's statement on record that he has no evidence of any wrongdoing. Morrison nodded. Mr. Cade, do you have any actual evidence to support your claims? Victor's hands clenched on the armrests. Lena could see the war playing out across his face, pride versus survival. No, he said finally, the word bitter. I have no evidence. Then we're done here. Morrison closed her folder. Mr. Volkov, again, my apologies. Mr. Cade, you're very lucky Mr. Volkov isn't pressing charges. I suggest you don't waste our department's time again. She left, her team following. Within minutes, the house was clearing out. Police officers, investigators, forensic accountants, all disappearing like a receding tide. Soon, only Adrian, Victor, their lawyers, Elena, and Lena remained. Victor stood slowly. This isn't over. Yes, Adrian said. It is. You can't just erase me. I already have. Adrian's voice was quiet but absolute. Your business accounts are frozen. Your investments have been liquidated by your own hand. Your partners have been contacted and informed of your instability. Your reputation is in ruins, and the buyout papers are ready for your signature. I won't sign. Then you'll have nothing. No money, no power, no protection. Adrian moved closer. I'm offering you an exit, Victor. A clean break. Sign the papers, take the money, and disappear. Or refuse, and I'll destroy what's left of you piece by piece. Victor's face contorted with rage. You think you've won? I know I have. The question is whether you're smart enough to accept it. For a long moment, Victor stood there, shaking with fury and humiliation. Then he looked at his lawyer. Where are the papers? Marcus produced a folder. Victor snatched it, scanned the contents, and signed with violent strokes of the pen. There, he spat, throwing the folder onto the table. Are we done? Almost. Adrian's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're going to leave this house, leave this city, and you're never going to contact me, my mother, or Lena again, ever. If you do, if you so much as drive past this property, the deal is void, and everything I have on you goes public. You have nothing on me, don't I? Adrian smiled coldly. I've had investigators tracking you for 3 months, Victor. Every meeting, every phone call, every corner you've cut, and every law you've bent. I have documentation of things that would put you away for 20 years. The only reason I'm not using it is because you're leaving quietly. Victor's face went white. So here's how this works, Adrian continued. You take your money, you relocate. Miami, Los Angeles, Europe, I don't care. And you rebuild your life somewhere far from mine. Do that, and we're done. Come back, and I bear you. The finality in Adrian's voice left no room for argument. Victor looked at Elena, then at Lena. His expression was pure venom. You'll regret this, he said. No, Adrian replied. I won't, but you might. That's the difference between us. I make decisions I can live with. You make threats you can't follow through on. Victor turned and walked out without another word. His lawyer gathered the papers and followed. The door closed behind them. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Elena started laughing. Not her bitter, cutting laugh, but something genuine and full of relief. Well, she said, that was satisfying. Adrian exhaled slowly, the tension finally draining from his shoulders. He looked at Marcus. Make sure the wire transfer goes through immediately. I want him out of the country by tomorrow. Already on it, Marcus said. And for what it's worth, that was masterfully done. It was necessary. Adrian's voice was tired. Get the paperwork filed. I want this officially closed by end of day. Marcus nodded and left. The room felt different now, lighter, like a weight that had been pressing down on everything had suddenly lifted. Elena wheeled toward Adrian. I'm proud of you. He looked at her, surprised. For what? For handling that with your head instead of your fists, for being smart instead of violent, for choosing the clean solution instead of the bloody one. Elena's voice was soft. Your father would have killed Victor. You sent him away wealthy and alive. That's growth. Adrian's throat worked. I wanted to kill him when he threatened Lena, but you didn't. That's what matters. Elena reached up and gripped his hand. You're better than he was. Better than he ever could have been. Adrian knelt beside her wheelchair, and for a moment he looked like a child seeking comfort instead of the dangerous man who'd just dismantled an enemy with surgical precision. I'm tired, Mother, he said quietly. Tired of fighting. Tired of always being 3 steps ahead. Tired of this. I know, but it's over now. Victor's gone. The business is clean. You can finally breathe. Adrian looked up at Lena. Are you all right? Lena realized she'd been standing frozen by the door, her heart pounding, trying to process everything she'd witnessed. I think so, she said. That was terrifying, Adrian supplied. I was going to say impressive. Scary, but impressive. Adrian stood. I'm sorry you had to see that. See me like that. Like what? In control? Protecting your family? Lena moved closer. That's who you are, Adrian. Not the violence, not the threats, the protection. But something shifted in his expression. Gratitude mixed with something deeper. Elena cleared her throat. I'm going to my room. I suddenly feel the need for a very long nap. Watching my son destroy his enemies is exhausting. She wheeled past them both, but not before giving Lena a significant look that said volumes. Then they were alone. Adrian moved to the sideboard and poured himself a drink. His hands were steady, but Lena could see the tension still coiled in his shoulders. Thank you, he said without turning around. For staying, for trusting me. Did you really have all that evidence on him? Yes. Every word was true. Adrian drank. I've been building the case for months, since the first time he mentioned you. I knew he'd try something, so I made sure I had leverage. And if he'd called your bluff? If he'd refused to leave? It wasn't a bluff. I would have destroyed him, completely and publicly. Adrian finally turned to look at her. I meant what I said about protecting you. I would have burned everything down before I let him hurt you. The intensity in his eyes made Lena's breath catch. Why? She asked. Why do I matter so much to you? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his glass and crossed to where she stood. Because you walked into my life when I'd forgotten what it felt like to want to be better. You looked at me and saw something worth saving instead of something to fear. You made my mother laugh again, walk again. You made this house feel less like a fortress and more like a home. He paused, his eyes searching hers. You matter because somewhere along the way, I stopped being able to imagine this place without you in it. Lena's heart was racing. Adrian, I know it's complicated. I know I'm not. He stopped, struggling with words. I'm not good at this, at being open, at trusting people, but you've made me want to try. Try what? Being someone worthy of you choosing to stay. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Lena took a breath. I'm not staying because I have nowhere else to go anymore. I have money now, references. I could find another job, another place to live. Adrian's expression shuddered. I know. I'm staying because I want to. Because this place, these people, they've become important to me. You've become important to me. Hope flickered across Adrian's face. Lena, I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest, to keep choosing to be better instead of easier. Can you do that? Yes? No hesitation. Yes, I can do that. Then that's enough. Adrian moved closer, his hand lifting to touch her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone, gentle despite the violence those hands had threatened hours before. You're remarkable, he said quietly. Do you know that? I'm really not. I'm just stubborn. No, you're brave and kind and stronger than you give yourself credit for. His voice dropped. He stopped, the words catching. Lena waited, her pulse thundering. I care about you, he finished, more than is probably wise, more than I've cared about anyone in a very long time. I care about you too, Lena said, even when you're being overprotective and controlling and impossible. Adrian's smile was soft, genuine. Especially then? Maybe especially then. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. May I kiss you? The question, so careful and respectful from a man who commanded everything around him, made Lena's heart ache. Yes, she whispered. Adrian kissed her like she was something precious, gentle at first, testing, making sure she wanted this, then deeper when she pressed closer, her hands finding his shoulders, his hair. It felt like falling and being caught at the same time, like coming home to the place she'd never known she was searching for. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to mess this up, he said. I'm going to be too controlling or too distant or… Probably, Lena agreed, and I'm going to call you on it, and we'll figure it out. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. Nothing about this is simple, but it's worth trying. Adrian pulled her closer, and they stood like that for a long moment. Two people who'd found each other by accident and chosen to stay on purpose. The next 3 weeks transformed the house. With Victor gone, the tension that had permeated every corner dissolved. Security remained, but it felt protective rather than paranoid. Business continued, but without the constant vigilance against betrayal. And Elena walked. Not perfectly. Not without trembling or occasional support, but she walked. Lena reduced their therapy sessions to 3 times a week as Elena grew stronger. They spent the extra time in the music room, where Elena taught Lena the basics of piano while sharing stories of her dancing career. I'm going to perform again, Elena announced one afternoon. Lena looked up from the keys. What? Not dancing, obviously, but piano. I'm arranging a small concert, just close friends, in the garden. Elena's eyes were bright. I want people to see that I'm not finished, that the stroke didn't end me. When? Next month. Will you help me prepare? Of course, Elena smiled. Good, and I expect you to attend, with Adrian, as a couple. It's time we made that official. Lena felt her cheeks warm. We're taking things slow. You're living in the same house, eating meals together, and I've seen the way he looks at you when you're not paying attention. That's not slow, that's just being discreet. Elena's expression softened. Let him love you, Lena. He needs someone who sees him as human instead of as a weapon or a tool. And you need someone who makes you feel safe without making you feel small. Is that what you and his father had? Elena's face darkened. No. His father made me feel powerful but never safe. It's taken me years to understand the difference. She reached for Lena's hand. Don't make my mistakes. Don't confuse intensity with love. What you and Adrian have, it's built on something real. something that might actually last. That evening, Lena found Adrian in the library. He looked up from his laptop when she entered, his expression warming. "Everything all right?" he asked. "Your mother's planning a concert. I heard. She's terrified but excited." Adrian closed the laptop. "She wants you there. With me. Officially." "I know. How do you feel about that?" Lena sat down across from him. "Nervous. This is all happening so fast. We can slow down." "No." Lena leaned forward. "I don't want to slow down. I just want to make sure we're doing this right, that we're building something real instead of just reacting to everything that's happened." Adrian nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Honesty. Time. And patience when I'm scared." "I can do that." He paused. "What scares you most?" "That this is temporary. That once everything settles and becomes normal, you'll realize you don't actually need me. That I was just a solution to a problem." Adrian stood and crossed to her, pulling her up and into his arms. "Listen to me," he said, his voice firm. "You were never a solution. You were a surprise, the best kind. The kind that changes everything without you realizing it until you can't imagine things any other way." He pulled back to look at her. "I don't need you. I choose you every day, every moment. That's not going to change when things are calm. If anything, it'll be clearer." Lena felt tears prick her eyes. "You're better with words than you think." "Only with you." Adrian kissed her forehead. "You make me want to be better with everything." They spent the rest of the evening talking about the future, about what Lena wanted to do long term. Maybe open her own practice, maybe teach. About Adrian's plans to continue legitimizing the business, to build something his children might actually be proud to inherit someday. "Children?" Lena asked, raising an eyebrow. Adrian flushed slightly. "Hypothetically. Someday. Maybe." "Maybe," Lena agreed, smiling. The concert arrived on a perfect October evening. The garden had been transformed into an intimate performance space. Chairs arranged in a semicircle, soft lighting strung through the trees, a grand piano positioned on a small platform. 50 guests attended. Friends of Elena's from her dancing days, business associates of Adrian's, a few prominent members of the arts community. All of them curious to see the legendary Elena Volkov perform for the first time in nearly a decade. Lena sat in the front row beside Adrian, wearing a dress he'd had made for her, deep blue silk that made her feel elegant and out of place in equal measure. "You're beautiful," Adrian murmured as the guest settled. "I'm nervous." "Why? You're not performing." "I know, but I want this to go well for her. She's worked so hard." Adrian took her hand. "It will. She's ready." Elena appeared, walking slowly but steadily from the house. She wore a black gown that moved like water, her silver hair swept up, her posture perfect despite the cane she used for support. The audience rose, applauding. Elena smiled, acknowledging them with a slight bow. Then she made her way to the piano and sat down. The garden fell silent. For a moment, Elena just sat there, her hands hovering over the keys. Lena could see her gathering herself, preparing. Then she began to play. The piece was Rachmaninoff, complex, emotional, technically demanding. The same prelude Lena had heard that first night weeks ago. But this time, Elena played for an audience. And the difference was stunning. Every note was perfect. Every phrase shaped with the artistry of someone who'd spent a lifetime understanding how to tell stories through movement and sound. Lena felt tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Adrian sat frozen, his hand gripping hers tightly. When Elena finished, the silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then the garden erupted in applause. Elena stood, steady on her feet, and bowed. The tears on her cheeks caught the light. She'd done it. Proved to everyone, including herself, that she wasn't finished, that the stroke had taken mobility but not artistry, not purpose, not life. After the concert, guests mingled in the garden. Elena held court, accepting congratulations and praise with grace. Adrian pulled Lena aside into the quieter shadows near the edge of the property. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For giving her back her life. For giving me—" He paused. "For giving me something worth protecting that isn't just power or money or control." Lena touched his face. "You're welcome." "I love you," Adrian said suddenly. I should have said it before. I wanted to wait for the right moment, but there's never a perfect time, and I don't want to waste any more time not telling you. Lena's breath caught. I love you too. Even though you're impossible and overprotective, and Adrian kissed her, cutting off the words. When he pulled back, he was smiling. Marry me, he said. Lena's eyes widened. What? Not now, not until you're ready, but someday. Marry me. Make this permanent. Make us permanent. Adrian, that's insane, too fast, too much? He cupped her face. I know, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret walking through that door, making sure you always have a home, making sure you know you're loved. Lena felt more tears coming, happy ones this time. Yes, she said. Someday, when we're ready. Yes. Adrian pulled her close, and they stood there in the garden as music and laughter drifted from the party behind them. 6 months later, on a spring morning full of light and promise, Lena stood in the therapy room watching Elena walk across the floor unassisted. No cane, no support, just steady, controlled steps. How does it feel? Lena asked. Elena reached the parallel bars and turned around, her face glowing. Like freedom. Ready to try the stairs? I'm ready to try everything. Elena moved back toward her, and for the first time Lena realized she was no longer a patient. She was just a woman who'd won a battle with her own body. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for letting me help. They worked for another hour, pushing Elena's limits, testing her strength. When they finished, Elena was exhausted but triumphant. I'm going to walk at your wedding, she announced. Lena smiled. We haven't even set a date yet. Then set one. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Life doesn't give us perfect moments. It gives us choices. Elena gripped her hand. Choose him. Choose this life. Choose to be happy instead of safe. What if they're the same thing? Elena's smile was knowing. Then you've already won. That evening, Lena found Adrian in the garden. He was standing near the spot where Elena had performed, looking out at the city lights in the distance. Hey, she said softly. He turned, his expression warming when he saw her. Hey yourself. How was Elena? Strong, determined, planning to walk at our wedding. Is she now? She is, which means we should probably set a date. Adrian moved closer, pulling her into his arms. What are you thinking? Fall, October maybe, in the garden. Small, just people who matter. That sounds perfect. They stood there in the gathering dusk, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way and built something real from the wreckage of their separate pasts. Lena thought about the day she'd walked through the wrong door, homeless, desperate, terrified. She'd been looking for work. Instead, she'd found a life, a home, a family, and love. Complicated, fierce, protective, real. No regrets? Adrian asked quietly, as if reading her mind. Lena looked up at him, at the man who'd offered her shelter and safety, and something more precious than either. Not even one, she said, and she meant it. 3 months later, on a perfect October evening, Elena Volkov walked her son down the garden aisle. Steady, strong, alive in every sense of the word. Lena waited at the altar in a simple white dress, her heart full. When Adrian reached her, Elena kissed his cheek, then Lena's. Be happy, she whispered. Both of you. You've earned it. The ceremony was short, the vows simple but true. And when Adrian kissed his wife for the first time, Lena felt the last piece of her old life. The fear, the uncertainty, the running, finally fall away. She'd walked through the wrong door, but she'd found the right life. And sometimes that's how the best stories begin. Not with perfection, but with courage. With choice, with the willingness to stay when every instinct says to run. Lena had stayed, and in staying, she'd found everything she'd been searching for without knowing she was searching at all. A home, a purpose, a love worth fighting for. The reception lasted until midnight. Dancing, laughter, Elena playing piano while guests sang along. Adrian never left Lena's side, his hand always finding hers, his eyes always tracking back to her like she was the center of gravity around which everything else orbited. When the last guest had gone and the garden was quiet again, they stood together looking at the space where they'd been married. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked. Lena leaned into him. "That I'm glad I walked through the wrong door. It was the right door, you just didn't know it yet. Maybe, or maybe it became the right door because I chose to stay." Adrian kissed the top of her head. "Either way, I'm grateful." "Me too." They stood there until the first hints of dawn touched the sky. Then they went inside, together. To the home they'd built from broken pieces and second chances. To the life they'd chosen. To the future they'd make. One day, one choice, one moment of courage at a time. And Lena knew with absolute certainty that she'd never walk through another door searching for somewhere to belong, because she was already home.